Hi, my name is Mark Dempsey. I'm an author and journalist. I'd like to tell you about my experience with the AT&T Foundation located in Dallas, Texas. Well, I'm located in Dallas, Texas too, and as a proud Texan, I can certainly tell you about one of the big problems that faces this state and the country as a whole. And that is thousands and thousands of kids drop out of Texas schools every single year. And nationally, it's a big problem too, because over 1 million students drop out of class every single year nationally. This doesn't really bode well for the future of our country, nor does it bode well for American business, who will have a very hard time finding people to hire with good, strong communication skills. So some time ago, I had a project that I thought would reduce the dropout rate and would encourage kids to study and motivate them to learn. And it would also reach out to minority communities, especially African American and Hispanic kids who drop out over 50% of the time in most of our major cities around the country. I just happened to be flipping channels one day and I saw that the mayor of San Antonio was also very interested in this issue, and he was going door to door to try to get kids to go back to school. And so I thought I would just give the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce a call and try to see if I could garner some corporate support for the project. And I got a response back from Patricia Gomez, and that's the name that we'll just use for our purposes today, and she heads up the education effort there at the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. She also just happens to be the former president of the AT&T Foundation. And so I talked to her for a while, and she said, well, just send me the information. I'll be glad to take a look at it. Well, a couple of days goes by, and she says, wow, this is really interesting stuff. And she thought it was very helpful to address the high school dropout rate in this country, not only in Texas. And she thought it would also be very good for mentors who try to help kids to stay in school. So she said, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to come and see you. And I'd like to present this to a good friend of mine who is the current head of the AT&T Foundation, and her name is Susie Seatwarmer. And so a couple of weeks go by, and sure enough, Patricia arrives at the airport, and I pick her up, and we go downtown to visit Susie Seatwarmer at the AT&T Foundation. Now, prior to the meeting, Patricia sent her some information about it to try to whet her appetite, to try to get her interested. And we didn't get a response, so we were going in to this meeting with the understanding that she had read the proposal and had read those materials. Well, come to find out, she didn't do either. It was very disappointing, the meeting, because what we found out was that Susie Seatwarmer just didn't really have any interest at all in a program that would reduce the high school dropouts in this country, which was really surprising, because AT&T, via Randall Stevenson, the company's CEO, has set aside $100 million over a 5-year period to address this very issue. So we both thought that Susie Seatwarmer would be interested. But in our hour meeting, did she ever ask any questions? No. Did she ever ask any questions about the materials that we had sent her? No. Did she forward the 3 packets that I had brought with me? Because you see, Patricia said that you really need to have other people inside AT&T get involved in this if it's going to come to fruition. Did she forward those packets to anybody? No. And after I had left, Susie Seatwarmer and Patricia had lunch. And so after the meeting, I just called up Patricia and I said, well, hey, did you discuss my project after lunch? How did it go? And she said, no, we never discussed it. I said, well, really? I said, well, what did you talk about? She said, well, we actually talked about gossip. And we talked about the internal politics of AT&T and how AT&T executives were vying for foundation dollars based on their sales. And they wanted that money so they could put it into their local markets to get, public relations headlines and to ingratiate themselves with nonprofits, etc. I said, well, did you ever mention the project at all during lunch? And she said no, which really surprised me. And so at the end of our meeting, I asked Susie, I said, well, how long is it going to take to get a reply? And she said 4 to 6 weeks. And I thought to myself, well, boy, that sure seems like a long time. And come to find out, that's just the perfunctory line that they give everybody, because if you look on the AT&T Foundation website, you'll see exactly that. So what do we have here? What we had here was a meeting that the AT&T president, or the AT&T Foundation president, wanted, not because she was interested in high school dropouts, but she was just interested in seeing her old friend again. That's what we have here. And that was very disappointing. And who paid for that? The San Antonio Chamber of Commerce paid for that. That's who paid for that. So after the meeting, Patricia sent this email to Susie. Thank you for allowing me and Mark to meet with you last week. about our project because we believe it could be a very nice fit into AT&T's overall commitment to education and particularly the dropout prevention efforts. We'll be glad to take any questions or schedule meetings or conference calls with anyone else at AT&T who might be involved in reviewing and assessing the potential of this project. Now that was set on October 5th, and our meeting was on October 1st. Did Susie respond to that at all? Nope. Didn't do anything. Just sat on it. Didn't do anything. So some time goes by. I think like a couple of weeks go by, and I say, listen, I just don't believe that they're interested. It doesn't make sense. She's not responding to emails. She never asked any questions. She just doesn't really care about it. And so I asked Patricia to send her friend an email and to inquire about it. And this is what she sent me on October 21st of last year. She said, your instincts were right. AT&T doesn't see this as the right project for them, since they have already published the book their senior executive wrote and are promoting it. I didn't know that AT&T was in the publishing business. Isn't that interesting? And granted, a big part of what I had in mind was a book project, but what AT&T did was that they took the interest of an AT&T executive over a book project that would have encouraged kids to stay in school, would have encouraged them to read, would have motivated them to learn, and would have reached out to minority communities. And I said to Patricia, I said, are you saying to me that AT&T took the interest of an AT&T executive and that politics was more important than children? And she said, yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. And it happens all the time in corporate America. I guess I was just naive. I guess I really believed that AT&T was interested in helping kids stay in school and reducing the dropout rate, especially since their CEO, Randall Stevenson, has publicly said so many times. And he says this, I really think it's going to take everyone collectively to get a spotlight put on this issue so we can begin to address it and really move the needle. Well, he's absolutely correct. That's what my project was all about. But when you look at public statements and you match them with private actions, they don't match. At least at the AT&T Foundation, that's certainly the case. And that's why I was so disappointed, and that's why I was so taken aback. Anyway, I wanted to let you know about this story. And so the next time that you read about the AT&T Foundation really and truly caring about high school dropouts, you'll sit and think to yourself, is that really true? Is that really, really true? Because I left the meeting thinking it wasn't true. And that's what was so disappointing. What was so enlightening was that the president of the AT&T Foundation was more interested in catching up on old news with her buddy at the expense of the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce than she was in reviewing a project that could help children. My name is Mark Dempsey. I'm an author and journalist, and you're welcome to contact me directly at markd112@yahoo.com, markd112@yahoo.com. And thanks so much for listening.